Minister for Foreign Affairs of Indonesia.
Mr. President, allow me through you to congratulate His Excellency Mr. Nasser Abdul Aziz Al Nasser on his election to preside over the 66th session of this August Assembly. Let me also commend his predecessor, His Excellency Mr. Joseph Dice, for his leadership in guiding us over the 65th session of the General Assembly. May I also take this opportunity to congratulate Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on his election as United Nations Secretary General. Indonesia would also like to welcome South Sudan as a member of the United Nations. Mr. President, our world continues to be replete with challenges of political and military tensions and conflicts, as well as the threats of nuclear weapons, of threats such as acts of piracy and terrorism, of financial and economic crisis, and worse, and more fundamentally still, in many corners of the world, of abject poverty and hunger, of environmental threats and natural disasters, of energy and food insecurity, and of intolerance and discrimination, as well as of authoritarian regimes bent on suppressing the clamor for democracy and respect for human rights. Mr. President, we believe that in convening at this august and historic hall, as we do every year, we must seek more than simply to review the year past, to lament on opportunities lost, and to congratulate on the gains made. Rather, Mr. President, we must ensure that moving forward as nations, we stand united, United Nations, in addressing and anticipating the challenges ahead, in particular, in transforming challenges into opportunities. Opportunities for nations to forge mutually beneficial partnership anchored on the principles of the United Nations Charter. Opportunities to promote a new kind of international relations, one that accentuates partnership rather than confrontation, and one which places primacy on the building of bridges rather than the deepening of fault lines and divisions. Of nations aggressively waging peace and development. Mr. President, waging peace and development in the Middle East must first and foremost entail the correction of an historic injustice which has been allowed for too long to the people of Palestine. Indonesia's support for the legitimate aspirations and rights of the people of Palestine to live in freedom, in peace, justice, and dignity in their own homeland has been steadfast and will continue unabated. Naturally, therefore, Indonesia strongly supports Palestine's present quest for full membership of the United Nations. Such membership, Mr. President, is consistent with the vision of two-state solution, of a just and comprehensive peace in the Middle East. Indeed, the recent heightened worldwide focus on the issue of Palestine can and must be channeled in a constructive way towards the promotion of an inclusive partnership among nations, one that leads to the fulfillment of the historic responsibilities shouldered by our United Nations. Mr. President, the continued denial of the most basic rights of the Palestinian people becomes all the more glaring in the face of the welcome democratic transformation that is underway in parts of North Africa and the Middle East. Like many, Indonesia has been deeply concerned by the untold losses and casualties suffered by innocent civilians. This, the bloodshed and the use of force, must be brought to an immediate end. For ultimately, political solutions must be found. This means that conditions conducive for people to shape their own future must be promoted. Thus, in Libya, for example, Indonesia supports the Transitional National Council in its efforts to promote a peaceful and democratic transition. Mr. President, a decade or so ago now, Indonesia too went through a tumultuous process of democratic change. Today, as the third largest democracy, Indonesia is reaping the democratic dividends of such change. That is why, Mr. President, we believe that political development, democratization should constitute a priority item on our agenda to allow states to share lessons learned and experience in their unique path towards democratization. That is why we took the initiative of launching the Bali Democracy Forum, the only intergovernmental forum for sharing of experience and cooperation in political development in Asia, a forum for partnership in the promotion of democracy. Mr. President, global partnership is particularly key in addressing the challenges of development, to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, to prevent the recurrence of famine as we are presently witnessing in the Horn of Africa. We must thus act in concert and in a focused and sustainable way to ensure food security for the most vulnerable. It means increased investments in the agricultural sector, of research and development, and increased production as well as productivity. I wish to highlight one particular driver to economic growth and development. An enhanced role of women in the economy is not only right, but also smart, leading not only to increased growth, but also a more balanced, sustainable, and equitable growth. Mr. President, achieving food security also requires that we confront the reality of climate change. The international community must find the political commitment to generate momentum for climate change. Momentum towards a new climate change regime post-2012. The forthcoming 17th Conference of Parties in Durban and the Rio+2 Summit 20 Summit in Brazil next year must deliver. Let us not wait, however. In Indonesia, we are committed to be proactive, to be part of the global solution to climate change. Through the REDD+ program, we are using our natural rainforests as an important part of our mitigation efforts. Mr. President, our commitment to work in partnership in addressing climate change must not founder in the face of the looming and renewed threat of global financial and economic crisis. In the face of that challenge, we must take bold measures. Reform of international financial and economic governance must be expedited. Enhanced coordination of national economic policies is essential. We must learn to step out of our comfort zone and address these critical needs in concert. As the emerging economies now serve as important engine of global economic growth, they must now have greater opportunity to contribute in promoting solutions. Mr. President, the challenges confronting us are persistent and they are formidable, but we have the opportunity and the capacity to address them, most of all to turn challenges into opportunities. For a start, since these challenges defy national solutions, they can at the same time motivate countries to strike partnership and cooperation. And allow me in this regard to highlight two basic points. First, we need to strengthen multilateralism to address global challenges. That means the central role of the United Nations to be able to address new and emerging challenges, and not least to identify new opportunities. Full support for and reform of the United Nations are key. That is the only way the United Nations can remain relevant, the only way to ensure that multilateralism will flourish. Through reform, we must ensure that the United Nations and its decision-making processes are more effective, more efficient, transparent, and inclusive. We must persevere in strengthening the General Assembly, the ECOSOC, and their subsidiary organs, as well as the Human Rights Council. We must support the Peacebuilding Commission as it helps countries emerging from conflict. The Security Council, Mr. President, must better reflect the current world situation. It should become more representative, more transparent, and thus more effective. All the key issues of UN reform should be addressed as integral parts of a comprehensive package. Second, Mr. President, cooperation and partnership between the United Nations and regional organizations is key in addressing today's global challenges. There should thus be synergy between the global and regional efforts. This is particularly true in conflict prevention and conflict resolution, linked to the theme of this year's United Nations General Assembly session, namely the role of mediation in the settlement of disputes and peaceful settlement resolution of conflicts. Mr. President, in Southeast Asia, as chair of ASEAN, Indonesia has worked ceaselessly to develop the region's capacity to prevent and to manage potential conflicts and to resolve them. Our efforts have been focused not only in the further development of ASEAN's conflict prevention and resolution mechanisms, rather also in developing and nurturing the necessary comfort level among ASEAN member states to resort to these mechanisms. As a result, Mr. President, we expect that Southeast Asia will remain as a net contributor to international peace and security, as well indeed to economic development and prosperity. Indeed, beyond its own sub-region, anchored by a strong ASEAN community, we are set to achieve by 2015, ASEAN continues to be the driving force in promoting an Asia-Pacific-wide regional architecture, which is conducive for the maintenance of regional peace and stability. Precisely the kind of conditions that have enabled countries in the region to pursue a development path uninterrupted by wars and conflicts. In the current regional setting, we in Indonesia describe this as being conditions marked by dynamic equilibrium, where preponderant power is absent, not by the promotion of bloc politics and often self-fulfilling geopolitical fault lines, rather a new kind of international relations with its emphasis on common security, common prosperity, and common stability. Later this November, Mr. President, a revamped East Asia Summit will convene in Bali, Indonesia, with the first-time participation by the Russian Federation and the United States. This will be part of an important regional architecture. As ASEAN attains its community and continues its central role in maintaining a stable and peaceful environment in the Asia-Pacific, it is setting for itself a new challenge and a new vision to develop greater cohesion and common platform on global issues. An ASEAN that is a net contributor for the solution of many of the world's ills and challenges. And this is in keeping with ASEAN's theme for 2011, namely ASEAN Community in a Global Community of Nations. Mr. President, to conclude, I wish to assure you and distinguished members of the United Nations that Indonesia will be relentless and unceasing in promoting the ideals embodied in the Charter of the United Nations in waging peace. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. I now give the floor to His Excellency John Baird,